And here we go, people. Week 15 in the NFL. The usual suspects, Dave, Proppy, Sia, Claudia with you to break it all down. We got passing, rushing, receiving props. Of course, we'll go over what happened last week, look ahead. I can't believe there's only a few weeks left. It makes me kind of sad. It's my first season with you guys. I'm sure plenty more ahead of us. And I just got to know our community here. Of course, you guys give us all your comments, your questions. We'll get to all of them, your fantasy. Good luck to all this weekend, Joelle. Same to you. So certainly looking forward to this postseason and, of course, next season. But reconnecting with the YouTube squad, Proppy, was something you guys kept mentioning. So I'm glad we're back on here for week 15.
Ecstatic to be back. I've returned after my 1 week hiatus. There was some unsubstantiated rumors that I had suffered from some food poisoning courtesy of some cheesesteaks that have come via Dave Richard, but those were in fact just rumors. Dave did in fact send cheesesteaks. Shout out to Dave and John's Roast Pork for supplying said cheesesteaks. They were absolutely phenomenal cheesesteaks, and I am so happy to be back, guys.
Showdown bet is a showdown bet.
There we go. Now everybody knows when we do the showdowns, it's a real result. See how we feeling heading into week 15.
Feeling pretty good. I mean, I was 1-3 last week, which, the Chris Rodriguez play, Dave, we talked about it last week on the show. I mean, the way the coaching malpractice that occurred in Washington, or in that Washington game, where he got stuck at 10 instead of getting to 11, probably should have been 16 or 17. That was really frustrating. But I've got some props this week that I really like. In fact, I've got a couple of plays, one in particular, that I love from a ladder standpoint, where there's a guy where the stock is just way, way down on him right now, rightfully so. Big bounce back coming, hopefully for me, but hopefully for this player that shall be named later as well.
All right, you mentioned how last week went. Let's pull up that quick recap, Ben, taking a look at last week. Proppy and I, neither of us were there. RJ White stepped in. He's like, yeah, real quick, I'm just going to sweep the board here with his 3 props. So shout out to you, RJ, if you're watching. Appreciate you for filling in last minute. Sia, as people are saying in the comments, bounce back for you. We're all feeling it. And Uncle Dave went 2 and 1. All right. Yeah, Proppy?
Oh, great job. Just wanted to
it was just a thumbs up.
Yeah.
I thought it was a, hey, let me say something. No, all right.
No, phenomenal work.
All right, sweet. Let's rip into it then. Let's start with some passing.
We had a problem with the stream, right?
What?
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't hear Claudia at all.
Oh, you can? You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Can you guys hear Claudia? Is she talking?
We can hear Claudia. She's talking.
Yeah.
It's weird. All right. I'm going to leave the room and come back in so that way I can hear Claudia and Claudia can hear me.
Okay.
Right,
I can hear Dave, but he can't
hear
me. So Dave's going to go. Will I texted Proppy. Whoa. Pretty much. I texted Proppy before the show and I was like, what are your thoughts on Jacoby Brissett? I know both tackles are out, but game script wise, this makes a lot of sense to me. I'm going attempts. I'm going to let Proppy go first because he's going under on passing yards, and then I'll give my take on attempts. And I'm curious, Sia and Dave, what you guys think. But Proppy, go first. We're looking at this Cardinals-Texans game. Texans laying 9.5 here. Total set at 42 in the hook. Why don't you like 234.5 for Jacoby Brissett?
Yeah, if we look at the box score at Jacoby Brissett, he has gone over this in consecutive weeks. He's posted high yardage totals. He's thrown a ton of passes, but Jacoby Brissett has really benefited from playing in garbage time, which can be defined by a couple of things. When the game's out of reach, when they're trailing by double digits late into the fourth quarter, etc. He has really gotten the majority or the bulk of his yards and attempts in these sort of scenarios. I read a very fascinating article this week that really highlighted the fragility of garbage time and counting on garbage time production. Basically, what eventually ultimately happens is the bottom falls out. And what I mean by that is you can't count on garbage time production. Eventually, a guy is just going to fall flat if his metrics are pointing down, and that's what they are with Jacoby Brissett. And this is just a brutal matchup against the Houston Texans. As good as any coverage unit in the NFL, they pair exceptional coverage with an elite pass rush. So this is a spot that's going to be very difficult for Jacoby Brissett to have success. I don't even think the volume is going to be there either personally against this Houston Texans defense. So I think it's a good spot to fade him. These are big numbers for him despite him having cleared these in multiple games here. Again, just a very, very difficult matchup. I would also argue that offensively, the Houston Texans play a brand of football where they invite competitive contests. They don't really blow a lot of teams out. So I don't think Brissett is going to be trailing, or I think it's unlikely Brissett is going to be trailing by 21 or 24 points, come 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter where he's just chucking it and the defense is playing a soft prevent. So I just think this is a good spot to fade him. I think the bottom's about to fall out on Jacoby Brissett.
See, I just have to disagree. I think maybe the completions aren't there, so the passing yardage goes under, but I do think the volume is there, because are they going to give it to Bam Knight 40 times? Like, they're not doing that. I think they're out of the playoffs. They have nothing to play for. Why not? They're catching 9.5 points. And he's smashing the attempts. It's 36.5. He's at 44, 40, 49, 57, 44. Only 2 weeks the entire season he hasn't cashed this. In one of those, he missed by the hook. The other one, he had 31, and that was a big win over the Cowboys. But we have the 9.5 game script here. I know it's a tough defense, but they are allowing on average over 31 attempts a game. So in my mind, it's like, why not let Jacoby Brissett just chuck it downfield, try and keep this game close? They have played well on the road, by the way. 5-1 ATS on the road, the Cardinals are. So 9.5. The more you think about it, seems like a good number. I just don't see them leaning on the run game because there's no depth there, really. It hasn't been effective in general. So curious, Dave or Sia, if you have any say on this. Again, both could cash. The attempts will be there. Completions and yardage is not. Sia, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm with Proppy here. In fact, when we were talking pre-show and we were looking at everybody's picks, the Jacoby one stuck out to me. So here's the problem with the attempts. Okay, a couple of things. One is I'm not sure how many drives are going to be extended drives like we tend to see in garbage time or just with Arizona lately, because Jacoby's been pretty good where, we're getting first downs and we're churning out pass attempts and we're churning out yards. You're just not going to see that here. And I also think a lot of the Texans possessions are going to be longer possessions. I was actually looking at Woody Marks rushing yards. It's really high and he's still got that ankle injury. So there's only one outfit that actually has his prop out. It's BetMGM at 74.5. I mean, that's really high for Woody Marks. Nick Chubb maybe not playing here. So I get the number on Woody, but the bottom line is CJ Stroud's been a little bit better as of late. I think they're going to have some long extended drives through the running game, perhaps through the short area passing game. I'm just not sure Arizona's going to have the ball long enough and extend drives long enough for him to get to that attempts prop.
Well, every time I've mentioned Jacoby Brissett on this show, none of you have agreed with me, and he's cashed every time. So hopefully you're all wrong and I'm right. We'll find out. All right. Sia, you don't have a prop here, right? Passing?
No passing props. A ton of leans we can get to later, but I know Dave's got one.
Yeah, Dave. JJ McCarthy against the Cowboys. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at the over on the pass attempts. So kind of what you're doing with Jacoby Brissett, I'm doing it with JJ McCarthy. The number's 28.5. The line is minus 123. You can also take the over here if it's 29.5 pass attempts and get a little plus money. So shop around. If you're willing to take on the extra pass attempt, you will get the odds in your favor. And I don't think the Vikings are going to be able to run the ball very well in this game against the Cowboys. Cowboys run defense, ever since they got Quinnen Williams, it's been better. And I'm impressed with how JJ McCarthy actually played last week. Vikings did a good job of not stressing his mechanics or throwing downfield. They wanted him to get the ball out quickly, and he managed to do very well. His time to throw was a season low for him. He did very, very well with it. I think we're going to see more of that. And the question is, will he have enough attempts for him to put over this number? And I'm just going to tell you this. 4 offenses this year, just 4, have attempted under 30 passes against Dallas. None of them have come since Dallas acquired Quinnen Williams. So its defense has gotten healthy. Teams are throwing on the Cowboys. That's where they're weakest. It's in the secondary. Quarterbacks have taken advantage. In fact, every quarterback that Dallas has taken on in their past 5 games has had at least 31 pass attempts. So I think J.J. McCarthy gets into the spirit of the thing. We're not going to see them run the ball very much or very well. McCarthy's going to have to throw. I think the Cowboys win the game. I think the Vikings keep it close. I think McCarthy's part of the reason why they keep it close. I think Justin Jefferson's going to be a reason why too. and he's going to go over 28.5 pass attempts in week 15 against Big D.
I was just going to say, I don't think anybody has. Does somebody have Justin Jefferson later? Because I'll skip it. But his number, I imagine, is super low since he's put no numbers up. And the matchup's great. If you like JJ, are we looking at Justin maybe?
I saw 61.5 as his yardage number. And that's still, it's not as high as it's
he's
ever
not
been,
hitting it. Right.
Right. So, but I could see him going over there. And I think people have been hammering the under on Justin Jefferson for several weeks. And once you hit an under a couple weeks in a row, you want to just keep riding it. And the books know that. And I think they realize that at some point, Justin Jefferson's going to get a lot of their money back. I think this is the week it happens. I think the Vikings give the Cowboys, they keep it close. I think Justin Jefferson could end up having in the neighborhood of 65 to maybe even 80 yards in the game.
Yeah, it's a good look. I left him off receiving, but that was certainly a player I'm looking at. Quickly, Sia, unless you have a lead you want to talk about, Prop Archie asked us, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I don't really know how to say that. Properaki? I don't know.
Properaki, I think.
Properaki. Okay, let me know if I'm saying that right. Mahomes over on pass completions, 21 in the hook. They're laying 5.5 against the Chargers.
So the initial gut reaction to that is you don't want to take this because, like a compromised offensive line, 21.5 is a kind of a normal completions number, but it's not a normal number for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I would actually lean to the over here because they are probably going to try to establish the passing game like they always do. They did run it a lot last week, which kind of surprised me. I think they were trying to protect Patrick Mahomes there. So this is one I would probably stay away from, but I would lean to the over.
I like the over here for a variety of reasons. The Chargers play zone at the second highest rate in the NFL this season. Patrick Mahomes, while having a down year, still ranks top 10 in EPA and success rate. He's exceptional versus his own defense. He has receivers that are very comfortable finding the seams in the zone. So this looks like there might be kind of what we've seen from Mahomes recently, where he's dinking and dunking, and I could see this being a highly efficient outing for him.
I was just going to say, the only thing I'll say is I think, again, I lean to the over. I think Proppy's right, but especially because I don't think we've seen 21.5 for Patrick Mahomes this whole season. It's usually 23.5 or higher. But the problem is the offensive line is so compromised, they may just lean into that run until they have to pass. But that's probably not going to be the case.
But that's not their way. I don't know if they've been that way more than like 1 or 2 games a year since
last week they were that way. Literally last week they were that way. Right. Until the game got away from him, then all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes started.
Mahomes had to throw, right, and his efficiency was terrible and the offensive line was bad. I'm hoping that Trey Smith comes back and that'll help the interior of that line, and that the tackles at least will have a better plan for their tackles this week. But really what Proppy said about the zone coverage that the Chargers run, it would be a shock if they turn to man-to-man at this point. And I think the middle of the field will be wide open for Rashee Rice and for Travis Kelce. The running backs will get passes out of the backfield. It's not going to be a pretty game for fantasy for Patrick Mahomes, but I could see him getting well over 22 completions in the game.
Claudia, real quick before we move on to running backs, I took a long look at this Cowboys-Vikings game because there were some plays I wanted to make. Just one quick note, Trayvon Diggs he's probably coming back for the Cowboys.
I actually think
that looks like a pretty big deal for the Cowboys because we know that they had a corner that was getting kind of picked on last time out. So that's pretty big just if you're like thinking of Jefferson or McCarthy, not attempts, but like yardage and completions, things of that nature. I kind of like Jordan Mason unders. The problem is the reason I didn't go there is I'm not 100% sure what the split is going to be between Mason and Aaron Jones with the rushing attempts. It could be pretty close to 50-50, and even at 60-40, I'm not sure I love the under there, but I do kind of like his longest rush under of 12.5. Again, I'm referring to Jordan Mason. I lean to his under 38. I like his under 12.5 longest rush, and I like Aaron Jones receptions over 2.5, especially in a likely negative game script.
All right, see, it's just giving it all to us.
SGP, put it together. Not official plays, just throw it all together. Let's go.
The Jefferson yardage I'm seeing with our friends at BetMGM make it legendary, as low as 59 in the hook. So if you like Justin Jefferson, shop at BetMGM if you like the over there. All right, let's talk some rushing props. And see, I'll come to you first. You mentioned Chris Rodriguez, I think, off the top of the show. The line has moved here. They're at the Giants. Take me through this prop.
Yeah, the problem, and I'm checking it as I'm talking, because what happened was this line was out only at BetMGM earlier today. And then BetMGM took it down because he's got this growing injury that we don't know if it's a serious injury or not. And then they put it back up. So it looks like it's still at 50.5. I'm not 100% sure. The reason I put it out on the early edge this morning was because I figured if he got like a full practice in, or if it looked like he was going to play on Sunday, the other books would open it at 52, 53, maybe even 54.5, because this is an outstanding matchup for Chris Rodriguez, who's expected to get 11, 12, 13 carries and is going up against a defense that allows 6 yards per carry, actually a little bit more than 6 yards per carry. So I really like Chris Rodriguez in this spot. Again, I put the line out early, even though it was only at one book, because I wanted people who were at BetMGM to go ahead and be able to play the 50.5. And for the record, if he doesn't play, then the bet is voided. So I'm waiting for these props to populate everywhere. But the reason they haven't is because I don't know that anybody has, maybe Dave, you can tell us, but I looked everywhere before the show. I don't know that we have a clear picture about what happened with Chris Rodriguez at practice today.
I haven't heard anything yet. But I'll keep an eye out for the next
So
week.
this is one to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Okay, keep an eye on Chris Rodriguez. And Dave, we'll come to you with D Swift over 12.5 rush attempts. Feels low against a Brown squad.
I thought it was low too. And I'll tell you what, I think this game between the Bears and the Browns is going to be just what you think it is. Like this cold weather, low scoring, back and forth clash where both teams are going to run the crap out of the ball. And as much as Kyle Monangai has become a factor for the Bears, Swift is still narrowly their main running back. And I get that the Browns' run defense is better than what they showed last week, but they've definitely been beaten up over the last month plus or so. In total, on the year, 11 running backs have had 13 or more carries against them, including one in 7 straight games. His efficiency, Swift's efficiency, has been great in each of his last 8 games, except the Steelers game that he fumbled in. That's the only game he didn't get 13 or more carries in the last 5 weeks. I doubt his playing time is in jeopardy. I talked about his efficiency. He's not on the injury report. So what I almost think we're betting on, will DeAndre Swift fumble, or will the Browns build a big lead and force the Bears into throwing the ball a lot? And if those are the things that I'm betting on in this prop, I really like my side of it by taking the over on DeAndre Swift's rush attempts. It's 12.5. It's at -102. I would play this. I would play it if it got to 13.5, even in negative juice, even if it was like 13.5, -118. I would still take the over on that. I feel pretty good about Swift getting a decent amount of work for Chicago.
I really like this look from Dave for a variety of reasons as well. The Browns, yes, a formidable run defense, but they also have a very good coverage, very good pass defense, but they have an elite pass rush, and teams are actually opting to run heavily against the Browns despite their formidable run defense. So I think taking a volume-based approach, because it's unlikely to result in big efficiency against this very formidable run defense, but teams are opting to go run heavy and run right at the Browns, despite it potentially being the strength of their defense. So I think this is a great look from Dave.
Property, we have a lot of New England Bills game questions. Lots of people are bringing up Travion Henderson. That's one guy you were looking at this week.
Indeed, going over on Travion Henderson. I just found this on as low as 44.5 on my local book. Travion Henderson, I've been extremely bullish on all season. Got off to a slow start, was struggling from an efficiency standpoint. Really wasn't ripping off the big kind of chunk plays that a lot of people are anticipating. But watching him recently, it's really started to click for Travion and the running game in New England. Certainly benefiting from Drake May and exceptional quarterback play. New England's been a fairly balanced team, and Travion Henderson looks worlds better to me in the backfield. And just going over, just again, 44.5 rushing yards, something he's easily eclipsed, I believe, in 5 or 6 consecutive games against a Bills team. Not only do they have a dismal run defense, they are the biggest run funnel in the NFL by a significant margin. What I mean by that is teams are opting to run against the Bills at a higher rate than any other defense in the NFL. So this game projects to be competitive, certainly. Even in a split with Ramondre Stevenson getting maybe 40 to 45% of those backfield touches, the way Travion is running right now, I think this number is far too low. I'd make this line upwards between 55 and 58.5. So tremendous value here for Travion Henderson, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite bets on the board. I'm 100% telling you here. A lot of people are worried about the split backfield, but you said how efficient he's been. And he has Cassius in 6 straight weeks. He's averaging almost 5 yards a carry, over 6 yards a carry last week. Absolutely love the matchup. So certainly with you there. And Spawny says, I apologize ahead of time for the reality check that your Patriots are about to get. You know, I'm a little worried. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little worried. Earlier on our pick show, I gave out the Patriots line flipped in my favor to grab a point, so I threw him in a teaser. I'm a little sweaty. I know we beat them in Buffalo, but we have the offensive line injuries. I am, Dave. I'm sweating over here. I am in Florida. It's like 80 degrees. But yeah, I'm worried. So I get it, Spawny. I'm not going out here saying we're going to crush them. I'm a little worried, but I hope we win. Travion, love that play. Let's come back to you, Dave. You got Jaylen Warren under.
I've got Jaylen Warren under 52.5 rush yards at -112. His efficiency, I'll be nice, Claudia, and I'll say his efficiency has been erratic. Just 5 games all year with more than 3.8 yards per rush. None in his last 3 games. And while his carry share in those last 3 games is at 61%, that's not bad. His snap rate is almost dead even with Kenny Gainwell. It's 51% to 48.5% with Caleb Johnson. Remember him getting 0.5% of the share of snaps. Warren's average 3.2 yards per carry to Gainwell's 6.7. And Gainwell's been the better pass catcher in terms of volume and receiving average. I wonder if the Steelers are going to move more in the direction of Gainwell because he provides less of a tell to the defense. When he's back there, does it mean the Steelers are going to run or throw? When Warren's back there, it's been way more running and way less throwing, so the defenses can key in on that. And speaking of defenses, I know the Steelers are at home. They're taking on Miami. You can think what you will about Miami, but their run defense has improved greatly, giving up 3.9 yards per rush, an impressive 6.6 explosive rush rate allowed, 0 touchdowns. This is in their last 4 games, excluding garbage time. I think this could be a big week for Kenny Gainwell. I would start Gainwell over Jaylen Warren in fantasy, and I'm going to take the under on Jaylen Warren, 52.5 rush yards, play it down to 50.5. That's as far as I'll go. But I'm worried about him having another inefficient game.
Dave thinks this could be a big week for Kenny Gainwell. I think this could be a big week for Dave Richard. I love Dave's picks this week.
Let's go. Okay, a stamp of approval.
Look at what the cheesesteaks have done to Proppy. You know, all you got to do is feed the guy and he's going to become your best friend. You're like my dog, but, you know, a lot smarter.
Oh, man. And I see the fighting between the Bills and Patriots talk. Keep that coming, people. Bills hugely overrated. Yeah,
how many people on this show think the Bills are going to win?
Yeah, let's get a tally going here. Bills, Patriots.
I think it's a true pick 'em.
I'll go Patriots.
Yeah.
The Bills defense is awful.
Agreed.
Period.
Yeah, Bills defense worries.
Awful.
Yeah.
And the Bills play calling is horrendous too. They're just completely shackling Josh Allen. So
shackling Josh Allen or begging him to make Superman plays.
I disagree. I think they're ultra conservative and they should allow Josh Allen to be Josh Allen versus this run heavy approach where they're not allowing Josh Allen to attack downfield nearly as much as he has historically. So in my opinion, the play calling is holding back the Bills offense significantly. That being said, they've been very effective running the football, but Josh Allen, his skill set to me is greater than what we see on a week-to-week basis. I think he's being held back by Joe Brady.
Yeah, I think you're right on some of that. I don't think Joe Brady's holding back because of Josh Allen. I think it's because of the receivers that they have.
Well, I mean, they don't make Dalton Kincaid a full-time player, which is just mind-boggling.
No, they want to keep him healthy. He's never at 100%.
That is crazy to me. They've, again, not like not making Khalil Shakir a full-time player is also nonsensical to me. It's just like they're giving Brandon Cooks and Gabe Davis playing time.
Yeah.
It's just like makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Oh, do we have this going? Oh, is this on Twitter? Yes. I don't
Yeah,
know if
look at
Ben,
that.
our producer, can talk to me. Okay. Go vote, guys. I love this. I'm going to make sure I vote.
We need more
Interest in the
votes.
chat.
I wouldn't expect it to be this far apart. I would.
Well,
and
12
now
votes,
it's even out.
Dave. 11
Oh,
Yeah,
votes
this is
now.
just in the
We're getting
chat.
up there. Let's go. Let's
Okay,
go. Okay,
right.
it's in the chat. I don't know how
All
this
right,
works.
all right.
I'm not
It's a
gonna-
7-6 split right now.
Okay.
7-6 split. All right. We'll keep an eye on that. Make sure you go vote. Let's talk a little Justin Herbert. That is the prop I'm looking at. And when he faced the Eagles, the line for attempts was 3.5. And I went on every show and I gave that out. And I said, this number is far too low when you consider the offensive line, the pressure he's going to be facing. One hand is surgically repaired, so he's not going to be wanting to get hit even more so. No quarterback wants to get hit at the highest rate, facing the most pressure of any quarterback. Market has adjusted accordingly up to rush attempts. But I don't think they've adjusted the yardage enough, especially considering how productive he's been. Averaging 6.3 yards a carry, that's a career high. As we know, protection has been awful, especially without Joe Alt. He's just absolutely running for his life. Top 4 in the league in scrambles. And now he's facing a Chiefs front that has the 3rd highest pressure rate. They're forcing quarterbacks to scramble, allowing the 3rd most quarterback carries, 5 or more a game, the 3rd most yards, 20 plus. And we saw this matchup back in week 1. He had 7 for 32. Look at last year. He ran the ball a career high 69 times. We're heading into week 15. He's already at 67. He's quite literally running for his life more than ever. 2 more carries, he'll reach his career high. I love the matchup. The market has adjusted. Last week was just way too low. I understand nobody was sure exactly what he would look like coming out of that surgery. But again, for all of the reasons I said last week, that applies to this week. I would go over on yardage. It's set at 24 in the hook. I'd probably stay away from attempts, although I do think he can get it. I just don't like to chase the number there. So I'm going to go over on Justin Herbert rush. And I know, Proppy, you and I talked about this. Sia, Dave, any thoughts on Justin Herbert?
Go ahead, Sia.
No, I was going to say it would be a no play for me. I mean, I think your argument's great. I wonder about Kansas City kind of adjusting to what they saw last week, because that was really the primary threat for that offense. I mean, they weren't. I mean, and granted, that's probably because the coverage was great, because you can't just spy the quarterback, and obviously there might be holes somewhere else. But with that said, I just feel like there's going to be an adjustment. And honestly, I'm concerned about Herbert's hand. I'm not saying he's going to get knocked out of the game, but like, I don't know how he survived that game, to be honest with you, after coming off, 7 days off of surgery. I'm just stunned by it.
It's because he's a gamer, and
I
continue to be impressed with him, even though he doesn't come through with many clutch wins. Although we could argue that last week was absolutely that happening. The offensive line is getting just much worse now for the Chargers.
So bad.
It is going to mean him scrambling a little bit more. So I like where your head's at on this one.
Cool. All right, we got one more. Proppy, RJ Harvey against Green Bay.
Yeah, this is a multi-unit play for me. I love this look. RJ Harvey, over 51.5 rushing yards. My second favorite prop on the week. We'll get to my first favorite shortly. But yeah, much like Travion Henderson, I was extremely bullish on RJ Harvey. Selected 60th overall by the Broncos out of UCF. Was very impressed with his college career. I really thought he would translate right away to the NFL. Well, that didn't happen. Played behind J.K. Dobbins. We saw some flashes and glimpses, but now J.K. Dobbins is out of the picture, and he's the guy in the backfield. And last week, he had the best game of his career as far as rushing the football. Had a 71% success rate. That is a phenomenal mark for any running back. So very encouraged there. And then playing this week against the Packers, I actually love this matchup for a variety of reasons. The Packers, besides the Bills, are the biggest run funnel in the NFL this season. They have a very good pass rush. They're able to get consistent pressure without blitzing a lot, and excellent coverage. How do you mitigate that? You run the football. Teams opt to go extremely run heavy against Green Bay. Bay. So this is a matchup I think RJ Harvey is going to get fed the rock. So I would also look at his attempts line here as well. But I think he's going to be efficient, considering this is only 50 yards for a guy who's likely to see probably, in my opinion, between 14 and 17 rushing attempts. I love this. And then when you look at Green Bay as an opponent, they just invite very competitive game script. Yes, they are favored in Denver, but their style of football just results in a lot of rushing volume on both sides because of the brand of football they play, because they're comfortable playing with a one possession lead. So I just think game script here is likely to be in our favor throughout the majority of the game. And I think RJ Harvey is trending in the right direction. Very encouraged by last week's performance. And I think he's set to have another outstanding day on the ground. And he doesn't even need to be outstanding to eclipse this. He can get there on volume, in my opinion.
Yeah. Dave?
Two things. Number one, Ben Powers is expected back on that offensive line for Denver. Fun name to say, Ben Powers. Sounds like a superhero. That offensive line's been good to begin with. And adding him back, it replaces their worst offensive lineman. Double check the injury report on that, because if he's out, I don't think that means you stay away from RJ Harvey. It just means that it could be a little bit harder. And number two, Sean Payton has really made it a point to turn RJ Harvey into his best running back. He talked about it before last week's game. He said that, I can't remember the exact quote, but I talked about it on this show, when that's why we took all the overs that we possibly could on RJ Harvey, something like you ain't seen nothing yet.
That's exactly what it was.
I think we're going to continue to see him lean into RJ Harvey. I can't decide which one I like better between the yardage and the attempts. And I've dug deep into this game between Denver and Green Bay. I think Denver is going to end up clinging to their run game as long as they possibly can. And Proppy really said it. Teams have run a lot on Green Bay. And so I think that there's a chance that actually it doesn't matter. Both will go over Harvey with the yardage or the attempts.
It's also worth noting that last week also Harvey had a season high snap share and rushing attempt share as well, which is also in line with his playing time increasing and gaining that trust from Sean Payton.
Nathan in the chat read my mind. Whenever Proppy says it's a multi-unit play, I'm like, let's go. Proppy's about to go in. Get your bankroll out, fellas, Nathan says. All right, let's move on to wide receivers and tight ends. Let's see, Arcia, you got three, so we'll come to you first. Ricky Pearsall, is that one of your favorites?
That is my favorite. Yeah, this was the ladder opportunity I mentioned at the front end of the show. I mean, you look at Ricky Pearsall since he's come back from injury, and it hasn't been good at all. I mean, I'm talking like absolutely non-existent good, or not good, I should say. But what's interesting is that he's still been on the field. And so people are kind of curious, is he still shaking off the injury? He's just not as good anymore. What's going on? Well, that question was actually asked to the San Francisco offensive coordinator Clay Kubiak yesterday, and he gave an answer. And his answer was basically like, well, a lot of it's been situational with game flow and coverages, but he made a point to say he looks great in practice. He's doing great. It's going to start coming his way. It's just been some situational stuff. And because his stock is so low and because his stats have been so non-existent, we're getting a receiving line of 32.5 receiving yards against what Proppy would call a pass funnel Tennessee Titans defense. So this Tennessee Titans defense, by the way, has been actually decent against the run as of late because they got some guys back a few weeks ago. That doesn't mean San Francisco will not run the ball, but it does mean they're going to pass. You got to get Brock Purdy right because he hasn't looked good. This is the defense to get him right against. He's slated to get around 240 yards. Pearsall's going to be on the field for about 90% of the dropbacks. That's all you need to know. Juwan will get some, certainly George Kittle will get some, but this is a post-buy bounce back for Ricky Pearsall. I would go up to 40 plus. I'd go up to 50 plus. I'd sprinkle 60, 70, and 80 plus. Now, when I say sprinkle 60, 70, 80, I'm truly talking sprinkle. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we see a touchdown and 50 plus from Ricky Pearsall. Ladder this one.
I like
so
this
let me ask
a lot.
you this. Can I ask you, Proppy, and then you can tell us, would you go yardage, but with this strong play, maybe with the ladder, would you go 2.5? That's all it is for catches, 3 or more. The plus money's gone. Properacci, I know he said it was at plus 115. We're talking minus 130 now. Is that a look maybe for 3 or more catches, or would you also ladder the yardage?
I prefer to ladle the yardage like Sia. I think this is a
Okay.
great look. You're buying him at the absolute bottom here. The route participation is elite. Having that week off, I really think is going to benefit him greatly. Getting those reps, the continuity back on the field. His A dot is extremely high as well, and Tennessee is extremely vulnerable on the back end. Teams are opting to throw you to the areas of the field where Ricky Pearsall is operating. So when I looked at this, I actually prophesized that Sia was going to have a ladder play on this. I love this play.
All right, probably can see into the future now. Makes sense. That's how he cashes so many bets. Uncle Dave, you got Michael Pittman over on receptions against Seattle.
I love Michael Pittman over 4.5 receptions at Seattle, plus 140. Plus 140.
Wow. Yeah.
For him to get 5 or more catches. And of course, the first question is, well, who the heck is going to throw him the football? And my answer to that is that it doesn't matter. It's going to be good for Michael Pittman either way. It's either going to be Riley Leonard, who threw to Pittman on 35.7% of his throws last week, or it's going to be Phillip Rivers, who played with Pittman when Pittman was a rookie back in 2020. Either passer should find Pittman as a suitable short area target. They get the ball out quick. This is going to be the type of game where I'm not looking for efficiency. I'm looking for volume, and I'm also looking for a specific type of game script. And we've seen it from Seattle. We really only saw it from Seattle in the half last week, but they've done it over the course of games many times this year where they just build a lead on an opponent. The opponent has to throw to try and stay up on the scoreboard. Net result, big Seahawks win, but lots of passing attempts for the opposing teams. And here's another interesting pattern that I found that made this bet irresistible to me. I'm going to read it to you. Jonathan Taylor, running back for the Colts, under 21 carries in 8 games this year. In those 8 games, Pittman has had 6 catches, 6 catches, 5 catches, 5 catches, 7 catches, 8 catches, 9 catches, 5 catches, 8 for 8. So if you think that Jonathan Taylor is going to have a huge game, going to run all over the place and keep it close for the Colts against Seattle, don't take this bet. It's a waste of your time. But if you don't think that's going to happen, if you think Seattle's going to have a big game, that means that the Colts are going to have to throw. And based on what we've seen 8 times this year, I know it's not with Riley Leonard. Well, one time it was with Riley Leonard, but not really with Riley Leonard or Phillip Rivers. I think Pittman gets his volume in. I think he can get 5 or more catches in the game. And you're getting plus money on top of it. This is my favorite play of the week. Michael Pittman over 4.5 receptions.
I'm going to stay in this game. Yeah. Go ahead, Proppy.
I don't parlay often, but if I do parlay, I want it to be a correlated parlay. So I think there's something to be said there for taking the under on Jonathan Taylor's rushing attempts if it was 21.5 and Michael Pittman there. I also wanted to touch on Phillip Rivers. Claudia and I talked about this at length prior to the show. I think Phillip Rivers' yards is a good look at 148 to 151, wherever it is settling right now.
152.5 now.
152 right now. Okay, yeah. I think this is a good look for Phillip Rivers. He's going to start in this football game. Again, 14-point under, 13.5-point underdogs, likely to be throwing the football. I know Phillip Rivers is 44 years old. I know he last appeared in 2021, but he looked good in his last playoff game. And I just have a lot of confidence in this specific offense, in the Shane Steichen offense, in this system. And again, 150 yards for Phillip Rivers in a game where they're likely to have negative game script and be throwing against Seattle, I think is well within the potential ranges of outcomes for him. So I would also consider including that in an SGP. Jonathan Taylor's under rushing attempts, Phillip Rivers over 150 yards, and either Pittman or Tyler Warren.
You said it, Tyler Warren, Grandpa Rivers, baby. Let's go. You know he wasn't just sitting on his couch. He has enough kids to run routes in the backyard. He was and grandchildren. One of his grandkids, he has a son, Riley Leonard's age. So Phillip Rivers is back. I love the over on passing yards. And I actually did parlay because Tyler Warren, I like his receptions at 3.5. It's a little juicy though, minus 145. So you could parlay that if you don't like the juice, maybe bring it down to 3, parlay it with Rivers, 100+ yards. That's something I like a lot. I know the yardage doesn't jump off the page for Tyler Warren, but the targets have been consistent all season long. 5 or more in all but 2 games, never less than 4 targets. He's second on the team in targets, catches, and yards, and it's a great matchup. That's why I played this to begin with before the Phillip Rivers news. Whenever a tight end faces the Seahawks, I'd like to look to the over. As we know, one of the highest pressure rates in the NFL, actually the highest. So when you have a grandpa under center, he's going to want to get it out quick to a safety blanket. But they have been very soft against the tight end position, allowing the 3rd most targets, the 2nd most catches, the 2nd most yards, almost 72 a game. I know you have Jonathan Taylor. You have a lot of mouths to feed. If we're talking those short yardage check down situations, you can only give it to Jonathan Taylor so much. I do think the volume is going to be there. We should see some positive regression when it comes to his yardage, but it's juicy. But I do like the over on catches. I think that he's going to be that outlet for Grandpa Phillip Rivers, but also maybe if Riley Leonard gets in there.
One thing worth noting, Tyler Warren this season has greatly benefited from the Colts' ability to operate in play action and be effective in play action. The Seattle defense is exceptional against play action. So we haven't seen Phillip Rivers with Tyler Warren. It does make sense that he will look to get rid of the football quickly. That's how you mitigate this exceptional Seattle defense and their pass rush and everything they're able to do. Get rid of the football quickly. I anticipate that being the game plan when they are throwing the football, which is why I like Pittman. But I would offer that Tyler Warren, the majority of his production has come on play action. There has been no better defense in the NFL this season than Seattle against play action. I would also offer, if Michael Pittman or Tyler Warren are going to go over their lines, the likelihood of Phillip Rivers going over 150 yards to me is directly related to each other. So this is a rare situation where I think there is some correlation and definitely worth potential same game parlay.
Sweet. Spawny says it's a hammer spot. I use that word very lightly, but thank you, Spawny. I'm glad you agree with me there. Proppy, we'll come right back to you. Talk to me about Rashee Rice.
I love Rashee Rice, guys. Yeah, this is my multi-unit play for me, my favorite play on the board this week. We're getting Rashee Rice at just 63 or 64 and a half receiving yards, a big discount. Typically, this line had been upwards of 77 to 81 and a half recently. They have built the plane out of Rashee Rice. He is the engine of this Chiefs passing offense. And again, while Patrick Mahomes is not having a great season, he's still performing very well. And the clear focal point of the offense is Rashee Rice. And when there's Rashee Rice really been great, it's been against zone defense. His numbers versus zone are phenomenal. 3.47 yards per route run, which is in the 99th percentile at wide receiver. The targets per route run as well. He's being heavily targeted against zone. So I also like his receptions at plus money over 6.5. But I do think if he gets 7 receptions, he's going to go over the 64 and a half yards. The Chargers play zone defense at the second highest rate in the NFL. They have a lot of trouble covering the middle of the field and the areas, the intermediate portions of the middle of the field where Rashee Rice operates. I think this is a fantastic matchup specifically for Rice. I think he's going to be heavily targeted. I think he's going to be very productive. I love this discount that we're getting on him. Again, this is my favorite play of the week.
I love it. Sounds very confident. Tell me how confident you are about Hunter Henry. Let's go back to that Pats-Bills game and then see. I know you got 2 as well.
Yeah, I'm going to fade Hunter Henry here. Coming off of 2 very consistent performances. Consistency has eluded Hunter Henry throughout his tenure. But he's been fairly consistent this season with Drake May. He's having a fine season, certainly. But the one thing with this Bills defense, we've talked about how they're a big run funnel, how the defense isn't that good. A staple of this Bills defense, since really Sean McDermott has been the head coach of this team, is their ability to cover tight ends. They have been exceptional, not just this year where they've given up the second fewest yards on a per game basis to opposing tight ends, but that is the case every single season. They cover the middle of the field and specifically tight ends well. That is just a feature of this defensive alignment that the Bills primarily like to use. So we're getting a big number because of the recent performances from Hunter Henry. I don't care much about historical splits, but again, Hunter Henry has faced this Bills team 8 times since Sean McDermott has taken over the head coach. He's only eclipsed 40 yards in one of those games. So to me, this is a very natural, organic spot to fade Hunter Henry coming off of that performance against this Bills defense that, while vulnerable, still have really done a good job at limiting opposing tight ends.
Makes me sad. I love when Hunter Henry has a good game, but that's fine. Patriots could still win. Sia, you have a name on here I wasn't expecting to see. It's a Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver, but not the ones we usually think of.
Yeah, it's I like these sort of low end, high upside, potential ladder opportunities. We're talking Mitchell Tinsley, a guy that if you watch any of the Bengals preseason, you would have been like, oh my gosh, this guy is really good. He's going to see the field. Well, he is kind of seeing the field, especially when T. Higgins is out, which he is. Now, what happened 2 weeks ago when T. Higgins was out against this same team that they're playing, the Baltimore Ravens, he got 9 targets. 9 targets. The problem was he only caught 2 of them. Extremely inefficient, obviously, but clearly they saw a matchup that Mitchell Tinsley they thought could take advantage of. And I don't think that's going to go away against the same team and in the same exact situation with T. Higgins out yet again. So his over is 27.5 receiving yards. And again, I happen to think, regardless of what happened 2 weeks ago, I happen to think this guy's really talented. I think he can get to 30, 40, maybe even 50 yards. What I love about him too is, again, it didn't show up 2 weeks ago, but his contested catch ability is really good. He's really good at the point of catch. And I don't know, that might come into play here. Either way, I think he's going to get enough looks. You look at guys like Gesicki in that Ravens game a couple of weeks ago, he only had, I believe it was 4 targets. Yoshivas only had 2 targets. Now Burrow's going to spread it around. It's going to be Chase. It's going to be Gesicki. It's going to be Yoshivas. It's going to be Hudson. It's going to be Chase Brown. But clearly, it's also going to be Mitchell Tinsley. I think this line is a little too low. And frankly, I don't think that this is a ladder opportunity in the same way that it is with Pearsall. But I do think it's a ladder opportunity. I like this play.
And he had 6 targets against the Patriots as well. Taylor Winnings wants to know about Chase Brown. Any thoughts here, Uncle Dave, over 3.5 catches to complement Tinsley and Jamar Chase?
I mean, it makes a lot of sense if you think that the Bengals are going to be either in a competitive game or trailing, and we've certainly seen him get a lot of catches. He had 7 catches against Baltimore 2 weeks ago.
7 for 7, yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to – the reason to take the over isn't because he had 7 catches. It's because you expect the Ravens to push Cincinnati into a pass-heavy game script, and that gives Chase Brown some real opportunities, or should I say opportunities, to pick up 4 or 5 grabs. But you need to know that in the 5 years that I've been working with the Properoo, it has been banged into my head to not go crazy on receiving props for running backs. And that's why, if you're going to do this, half a unit, maybe 3/4 of a unit, that's it.
Yeah. Or what I like to do sometimes, because anytime I go to bet a running back receiving proppy literally comes into mind. Is don't do it. You could bring the number down if you want to throw it in some sort of parlay with a Jamar Chase or maybe even a passing yards prop. But I will say he's been pretty consistent. Caught all but one of his last 11 targets. We saw a 14 target game a few weeks ago. 14, 8, 4, 7, 4. So the target's certainly there, but maybe for a little wiggle room, if you wanted to bring that number down, throw in like some sort of 2-leg parlay. That's probably what I would do. I have one more, but see, you go first with Jameson Williams, and then
I'll go quickly here. I don't think this takes a ton of analysis. We know Detroit plays the Rams. It's going to be great game conditions. Obviously, it's a 54.5 point total. Amon-Ra St. Brown is healthy for we think he's 100%, maybe close to it. But the truth is, Jameson Williams has been just as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown from a production standpoint. I only need him to go 60.5 receiving yards. I think the best line is at BetMGM, by the way. I mean, I'd play it at 62.5 where it is everywhere else. It's a pretty high line considering Gibbs is going to get a lot of looks and considering Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to get a lot of looks. But this is a trailing game script most likely for Detroit. I mean, the Rams should be able to do whatever they want, especially with that secondary very compromised for Detroit. And Jameson Williams isn't just the guy running the fly routes anymore. He's running around like the middle of the field, some of the shorter area routes too, some slants, crossing routes. I think he's going to find space, and I like him over 60.5. And again, 5 out of the last 6 games, he's gone over this. And 4 of those 6, he's smashed it.
Love it. I'm going to stay in this game. This is a market I honestly never bet in NFL, bet it in NBA all the time, and it smashes for me. Instead of going over a super high yardage for a star player like Puka Nacua, which is where I'm looking, bet him to be the receiving yards leader. This price honestly shocked me. Last week we saw him hit a career high, I should say, the highest PFF grade for a wide receiver last week. That was his fourth 100-yard game this season. Nobody can defend him. And now he's facing, you just talked about it, a secondary that's compromised. They're bottom 5 in DVOA, specifically against the number 1 wide receiver, allowing the 6th most targets to wide receivers overall, the 5th most yards. We just saw Dak Prescott pick them apart, and 2 players, one CeeDee Lamb, not George Pickens, but Ryan Flournoy also had a 100-yard game. So 2 of their guys had 100 yards. The reason I'm going with this market in particular, the market has moved for good reason. He's lined at 99 in the hook, and you got to pay a little juice. So instead, just bet him to be the leading receiver at plus 105. And I understand Amon St. Brown exists. Jamison Williams, we just touched on, exists. But Amon St. Brown's lined at 76 in the hook. Jamison Williams lined at 60 in the hook. And you're getting plus 105 for a guy who's supposed to have 100 yards to lead. I don't really think the numbers make a ton of sense. So to me, that's some good value considering. So again, it's not a market I play in the NFL, very profitable for me in the NBA, but the matchup's just too good. I just can't bring myself to bet the over 100. Is this soft of me? I do see it as value though.
It is against the field, obviously, but Puka Nacua has been absolutely phenomenal, historically good. In fact, Devontae Adams might be operating at less than 100% here, and this is just a tremendous matchup. And despite the Rams being favorites, they're going to have to keep the foot on the proverbial pedal here and continue to throw here. So I think Nacua has massive, massive upside in this specific matchup, and he could go thermonuclear.
Oh, thermonuclear. Okay. All right. We hit on everything, didn't we? Yes. Okay, sweet. Let's get to that recap screen then. We gave out a lot of bets this week, guys. We were feeling the week 15 board. I guess we'll go through and pick which one we like best. I have to say, Proppy, I'll go first. I love that Travion look. I think that number is just far too low. He's been smashing it. I love the matchup. So Travion is my favorite of this board. Proppy, what prop do you like outside of your own?
I like Sia's Ricky Pearsall ladder quite a bit, but I have to give kudos to my uncle Dave. I think Dave's entire card this week is phenomenal. I'm going to nominate his entire betting card. I think Dave is going to go a minimum of 3-1, potentially 4-0. I absolutely love all of his picks. I will be tailing them myself.
Wow, I was about to offer you a showdown for all of your crummy picks, but now that you said that, I think I'm just gonna be really, really nice to you. Nah, I'm just messing around. And I already had this planned out as soon as I saw it. My favorite prop of the week is Proppy's Hunter Henry under 42.5 receiving yards. We talk about it on Fantasy Football Today all the time. The Bills are tight end erasers. This is one of the toughest matchups in the league for tight ends to deal with. And I think that especially if Christian Benford ends up not playing for Buffalo, the receivers are going to have a good matchup. And we saw what happened last time these two teams got together. Claudia, I know you remember what Steph Diggs did against his former team, and I wonder if he's going to be chomping at the bit to do that again.
Oh, yeah, 100%. At home, new home, hell yeah. See ya.
I think I probably would go with, I mean, Travion I like quite a bit. JJ McCarthy over 28.5 pass attempts. I think that's the one I like. I'm very interested in that Sunday night game. I talked about some props I like. I don't think JJ McCarthy is going to be very good, by the way, but I do like the 28.5 pass attempts.
Right.
Okay.
That's why we're not starting him in fantasy. We're not going to bother with that.
Right.
One quick thing. We did spend a little bit of time, goodness, it was probably about 40 minutes ago, on Patrick Mahomes and the over on completions. And I said that Trey Smith was expected back on that offensive line. We got the word during the show today that Trey Smith is going to be out for the game. So we're right back where we started with this Chiefs offensive line from last week, except one difference. The backup left tackle is also out for the Kansas City Chiefs. So both starting tackle spots, his great right guard and the backup left tackle. I don't know why I'm doing this. Maybe I'm doing a robot dance, but all those guys are out for Kansas City. It just means a lot of presumably dinking and dunking for Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, you're on mute, I think, Claudia, right? Or am I the one that can't hear her?
No, I can't hear her either.
I
but
can't hear
Claudia
either.
Claudia, can you
We
say
can't
anything?
hear Claudia.
We can't.
Oh, so she's not on
in a
mute?
weird vortex.
All right.
We can't hear her.
We might have to list off all of our picks,
No,
which
hold
we
on.
should
I see her
do.
lips moving, and I can read her lips. Let me try again, Claudia. Oh, she said, yeah. Can you hear me? Okay, good. I like you guys. Here are my palms. Here are my thumbs. All my picks are great.
How about we throw everyone's picks up and we each read our own
Yeah,
picks
let's
off?
each read them out, and then I'll read
Okay.
Claudia's too. Proppy, you start.
All right, I'm going Jacoby Brissett under 234.5 passing yards. Comfortable playing this one down to 228. RJ Harvey over 51.5 rushing yards. Comfortable playing this up to 54.5. Travion Henderson over 46.5 rushing yards. Comfortable playing this up to 49.5. Rashee Rice over 63.5 receiving yards. Comfortable playing this to 67.5. Last but not least, Hunter Henry under 42.5 receiving yards. Comfortable playing that one down to 39.5.
I've got JJ McCarthy over 28.5 pass attempts. Comfortable playing that one to 29.5. You might even get plus money if you take over 29.5. DeAndre Swift over 12.5 rushing attempts. I'm cool if you take that over 13.5 rushing attempts. Jaylen Warren under 52.5 rushing yards. If you see it at 50.5, hopefully you're getting plus money, but I'd be okay taking it there too. And Michael Pittman over 4.5 receptions. I was asked, would you take over 3.5 receptions at minus 160? Claudia knows this better than anybody. I hate the juice, but if you're okay laying it, maybe even in a parlay, go ahead and do that.
All right, I've got Chris Rodriguez over 50.5 rushing yards at minus 110. Again, this line may not be out right now, so let's just be patient and wait for the practice reports on Chris Rodriguez. I'd play it up to 54.5 if that's where it ends up settling. Ricky Pearsall, we're going to ladder this one over 32.5 receiving yards, minus 111. Mitchell Tinsley over 27.5 receiving yards at minus 110. Jamison Williams over 60.5 receiving yards at minus 115. Claudia likes the Commanders to win the Super Bowl. Marcus Mariota, 300 plus, McLaurin, 100 plus, and a touchdown. I'm sorry, wrong picks. Jacoby Brissett, this is what she actually likes. Jacoby Brissett over 36.5 attempts at minus 125. Justin Herbert over 24.5 rushing yards at minus 107. Tyler Warren over 3.5 receptions at minus 145. And Puka Nacua, leading receiver in that game with Detroit at plus 105. Wow. I guess I'm closing the show. Let's see. Oh, okay. What does that say? It says go Pats.
It's a picture of Drake May saying go Pats. One last housekeeping item, if I may. We talked about Chris Rodriguez on the show. You were looking for an update, Sia. He was limited in practice on both Thursday and Friday. He is officially questionable for the game. I would expect Chris Rodriguez to play.
Yeah. Okay. And if he plays, then we're good on playing that prop, everybody. Because if he plays, I'm going to assume he's a full go. Dave, I guess I'll close the show. Claudia, thank you. Dave, thank you. Proppy, thank you. Ben, thank you. But ladies and gentlemen, on the count of three, we close the show how we close the show. And Claudia, I want you to say it even though we can't hear you. 1, 2, 3.
Let's hit it big.
See you later.